I'm Bradford with Benfish Guide to Personal Finance. In this video, we're going to be finishing up our walkthrough IRS Form 1040 Schedule 1. So if you missed our first part, you can check it out right here. But with that out of the way, let's jump into it. So here we have the backside of the Schedule 1, starting out with line 11, and that's going to be dealing with educator expenses. So basically, what can you actually deduct here to help lower your taxable income? It's really going to vary, but some restrictions on here is that you do have to be a qualified educator, which means that you are teaching at grades K through 12. Now, you as an individual, you can deduct up to $300 in expenses, but if you're married filing jointly and your spouse is also an educator with the same criteria, you can deduct up to $600. Now, how do you know what you can actually deduct from your expenses? It's going to be based on what is commonly accepted as a deductible expense within your own community. So if you and the rest of your teachers in your school are deducting paper and various supplies that you're buying for your classroom, I'd say it's probably a good bet that you are good and the IRS isn't going to ding you for it. Now, moving on to line 11, basically this is going to be certain expenses to deal with National Guard, reserve members, if they had to travel 100 plus miles from home on a duty assignment, or certain artists, certain government officials. Basically, if you're trying to figure out if these sort of expenses do apply and you can actually use them to deduct from your taxable income, you're going to be looking at Form 2106 for some additional details. Going on to line 13, this is just going to be a health savings account or HSA. The amount of money that you've put into your HSA, all of that is going to be tax deductible. So that amount is going to go right here. Next up, line 14. These are basically going to be moving expenses that are due to a permanent change of station or PCS. Now, heads up, because I've done this I'm in the same boat being in the military, is that you need to have had them claimed with finance during your in-processing brief at whatever duty assignment that you move to, so that way you get it accurately reflected on your W-2 that deals with moving expenses that you'll get at the beginning of each tax year. So line 14, going into line 15, the next three with 15, 16, 17, basically all of these deal with self-employment taxes and things that you can deduct. So if you're not a business owner and you're not doing something as part of the gig economy, you can kind of tune out and you can skip ahead to 18. So 15 here, basically if you're self-employed, you can deduct the amount that is on line 13 of your self-employment taxes from your income tax. Since they are two separate different pools when it comes to taxation, you're not going to get double taxed by the IRS for this amount. 16, these are basically more eligible deductions if you are self-employed, and basically the same with 17. These are additional deductions that you are able to help decrease your total tax liability. Then going into line 18, this one you're going to need to reference either Form 1099 INT or 1099 OID to show you the penalty that is charged. And basically this is a penalty that's being applied to you because you withdrew savings early. So things that this would probably be applicable for would be like if you have a Roth IRA or 401k and you pulled some of your money out that is not underneath the very specific set of exceptions where you're not going to get penalized for it. If you did anything basically outside of those exceptions, you're going to be paying extra tax on it, and that's going to go right here. And then line 19, basically if you're paying alimony to somebody else, at the beginning of this form, it dealt with if you are receiving alimony, which is going to increase your tax liability. And this one deals with if you were paying it to somebody else, which is going to decrease your tax liability. Line 20, basically these are deductions that are made to a traditional IRA. Big note here, do not include anything that you made in calendar year 2023 that was made and applied towards tax year 2022. Because you basically have up until the actual tax deadline to continue making contributions to the previous tax year. You can get things that are a little bit weird. So let's say you made a contribution in January of 23, but you applied it towards tax year 2022. You cannot include that when you're dealing with this form with tax year 2023. Now, hopefully that wasn't too confusing. You were able to follow along. If not, just hit the back button a couple times and hopefully it'll make sense. Line 21. Basically, you're going to be able to deduct interest that you paid on student loans with some exceptions. And you have to meet all of these in order to be able to deduct that interest. First off, you can do it with any sort of filing status with the exception of married filing separately. If you're doing married filing separately, just skip on to line 22 because you can't do this one. You also have to have an AGI or adjusted gross income that is at or lower than $90,000 if you're single or head of household, or $185,000 if you're married filing jointly. And then the last component of this is that you cannot be claimed as a dependent by somebody else. So if you're still on your parents' taxes as a dependent, that's going to be a no-go. You cannot claim that interest as going against to be able to lower your taxable liability. Line 22, that's going to be for future use. That's going to be NA. 23, Reference back to 8853, which is an Archer, deals with medical savings account. 24 Alpha. So basically in this one, you got picked up for jury duty, you're getting paid for jury duty, and then you gave that money back to your employer because your employer was still paying you the entire time that you were on sitting the bench. So this one, you're not going to be getting taxed for the amount of money that you got paid for jury duty because it just went back to your employer. You never actually saw it. 24 Bravo. This is going to be any deductible expenses that are from line 8L or 8 Lima. If you have any questions about what exactly is going on with 8L, please check back to our part 1 where we did the walkthrough of schedule 1 there, because I kind of dive into it a little bit deeper. It does involve some difficulties on what is considered an investment versus what is considered a business, but that's kind of where the issue comes from. Moving on to the next one. Now we're going to be going into C. This is going to be entering the town taxable value for what was reported on 8M. So if you had a non-taxable amount that dealt with the U.S. Olympic Committee or with an Olympic medal, which is $500,000 if you're single, or up to $1 million if you're married filing jointly, that amount is going to go here on C. 24D, basically reference form 4562. E, basically it's so you're not taxed on money that you paid back from unemployment compensation that you already received. So you got the money, you gave it back, you're not getting taxed on it. 24F, these are contributions that you made if you're working for a 501c 18D company. 24G, it only applies in certain circumstances if you are a chaplain working with a 403B within the context of publication 517. Honestly, I don't know what that is, but if you are a chaplain working for a 403B company, go read publication 517 and see if it applies to you. Hopefully your company is telling you whether or not you need to be putting information in this line. 24H, reference publication 525 to see if you qualify. 24I, basically these are attorney's fees, court costs that are paid to you. Basically you can deduct up to the amount that was awarded to you. And fun fact, I didn't know that this was a thing that you could even do. So if you're like me and you didn't know this was a thing, it's not going to be applicable to you. But if you are one of these people that received this award from the IRS for helping them out, pay attention on the amount that you can actually deduct. Housing deductions from form 2555, reference that same form to see if what and if you need to put it on here on 24J. K, basically this is income from form 1041, box 11, code A. It's income from partnership payouts from schedule K1. If you're not in a partnership, not receiving money from it, this is not going to be applicable to you. 24Z, this is basically a catch-all. So if there's anything else that wasn't already considered, put it in here. And then 25 and 26. So 25, basically you're going to be adding up everything that was in 24 from A through Z, putting that in there in line 25. And then 26, you're going to add lines 11 through 23, and then add 25 to that. Basically, these are going to be your adjustments to income. You're going to enter them here on line 26, and then as well on form 1040 or SR or NR line 10. And basically that is going to wrap you up on what you need to do to be able to fill out IRS form 1040 schedule 1. So the first half basically dealt with how you increase your income, and then the second half dealt with adjustments to income. So it could actually either increase your income or decrease your income depending on which specific line item we were going with. So now that we have schedule 1 done, you probably still have a lot more questions. And if you do, that's great, because we have our Tax 101 playlist that can help you out with pretty much most of the common tax situations. For sole proprietorships, partnerships, LLCs, most of the common tax situations people have questions on, we have the answers. So thanks for watching. And from your first penny to your first million, we're here to help.